afternoon. How are you all? Have you enjoyed it today? It's been brilliant, hasn't it? It's been so, what's going on? I hope you're still going to enjoy it for the rest of the day. So my name is Sheena Byrom and I'm a midwife, and I've been a midwife for about 100 years. And I'm really delighted to talk to you today about this topic because it's a real passion of mine to kind of share some insights into compassionate care. And I don't know whether you know, but I edited a book called The Roar Behind the Silence, and with Sue Down. And this book has kind of gone viral around the world, and we've been going around different countries doing workshops based on the book. And the kind of the thoughts of compassionate care has really resonated even more with me by going into different countries and seeing the kind of maternity services that are being delivered in different countries. So I just want to start off by saying this is what we want. This is what we think of maternity services, isn't it? Where you have a healthcare professional, either a doula, a midwife, a student, or an obstetrician that's really giving compassionate, gentle care or nurturing care to a woman and her baby and her family. And that's what we have in our mind, and I think that's what most of us come to work to do on a daily basis, is to deliver that kind of care. But it doesn't always happen. And I've just been kind of looking into the statistics around maternal distress, around women who feel traumatised by their birth experience. And the number seems to be growing. And whether that's because we're asking women more, I'm not sure, but definitely birth trauma is high on agendas, especially when you look on social media. There's always someone talking about their traumatic birth experiences. And some of the research that's just come out has shown that at least half of the women that give birth in the United Kingdom complain about their birth experience. And actually birth experience is part of the safety agenda. It really matters what happens to a woman when she's having a baby. It's not just about a healthy baby. So we really need to pay attention to that. And humanising maternity care is really what we should be focusing on, making sure that whatever interaction we have with women, it's about that humanised relational care and that connection between us and the woman. This is a photograph that this was in India. Just recently I've been to India this year. And this is a horrendous, probably the worst image I've ever seen. One of my colleagues took it whilst I was there. And this shows dehumanised care. I think to the nth degree, really. What you're seeing is a complete disconnection between the people caring and total no feeling whatsoever, and women that are being abused. Really, there isn't care, is there? They're just totally violated. And that I'm showing you that because it is horrendous. But I want to now show you an image from one of the birth rooms that we have, and just to kind of think, this is a scene that you would very often see in our birth rooms, isn't it? On our labour wards. Would you agree? Those of you who are midwives and student midwives, do you think this is something that you would commonly see? So even though it's not quite as dramatic as the first one you saw, I'd just like you to reflect on it and think about how what this woman will be feeling during this scene. And I haven't got time to tell you all about what was happening in there, but just to say that she was crying out in pain. She didn't have a birth partner. And even though the midwife and the doctor are really busy doing their jobs, she's feeling distressed in this situation. So it's not quite as bad, but there are still things going on there that aren't quite right. This is a picture of something that we would probably all want to deliver care in this way. But I know this is probably a low risk, a woman that's not got any complications having a baby at home. But you can see there that the woman is feeling completely happy, and the midwife looks happy too. And my challenge is, why can we not do this for all women? Even if the birth is in the hospital, why can we not deliver this kind of care? This is what all women deserve. Every woman deserves to have this connection, whether it's a cesarean section or a normal birth. This is the kind of care she should be having. But what about the midwives? What about the obstetricians? What about the individuals who are providing care? And let me tell you, I get messages on a daily basis. Sometimes I get 3 a day from midwives and student midwives telling me how stressed they are. Sometimes I wonder whether it's the long shifts, the 12-hour shifts that they don't get any breaks. Sometimes it's 13, 14 hours. Sometimes it's because they're feeling burnt out. So many reasons. And the WAM report that was produced by the Royal College of Midwives this year absolutely clearly shows what's happening in the midwifery profession. And we have to really pay attention to this and do something about it. Because how can midwives care for others if they're not being cared for, and if they're overworked, and if they're burnt out? How can they do it? Well, I'm one of these individuals that doesn't believe in going down in big black holes. I believe that we have to do things. We have to do something about it. We have to look after each other. We have to reconnect. So there's 2 things we can do. We can really think about the compassion that we need to have for ourselves and each other, and we also have to be activists. We have to speak up and speak out, and that's what I'm going to be talking about. So we know that midwives are saying that they're delivering too many, they're becoming more record-centred than they are woman-centred. So that the technology that's in birth rooms and the fact that we've got to write everything so many times becomes a barrier. We have to keep speaking out about that. First and foremost, we have to think about ourselves. If we don't have the empathy and the compassion for our own human being, our own body, we're not going to be able to care for others. And this is I know this is a bit of a cliche saying, but seriously, it is true. We can't give out if we're not full ourselves. And this happens to me even now. Sometimes I feel I'm completely stressed and I can't help anybody because of what's happening to me. And then I have to stop and think, right, what am I going to do about it? And that goes for all of us. I believe that we have to really think about love, the concept of love, because we have to first and foremost love ourselves, but also loving each other is not romanticising things. It means that we have to start feeling for people that we're working with and we're caring for. And I'm going to kind of tell you a little story shortly about someone who has looked into all the research evidence around this, and that actually the more you care doesn't mean that you're going to burn out more, that it actually kind of comes back to you. And I think that, I've just been ill recently. I was very seriously ill in hospital, and I actually nearly died. And one of the things that I connected with were the nurses that I felt loved me. And they were all busy. Everybody was busy. It was a really hectic ward. But the nurses that I used to listen for their voices because I knew who they were. And they were the ones that kind of came in the room and gave me eye contact and smiled at me and said, how are you today? Is there anything I can do? Or they fixed my oxygen, or they got me a drink. They spent time with me. Sometimes it was only 5 minutes at the beginning of the shift. But that 5 minutes meant that I didn't keep ringing my bell. And then there were others that were really nice, but they used to walk out as they were asking me how I was. So I knew they were busy, and they said, "Hi, Sheena, how are you? How are you? You're all right." So it's that kind of I knew the difference. And but the thing is, the ones who were kind to me, they didn't seem burnt out, and also they didn't seem busier. So it actually saved them time by investing time at the beginning of the shift. And I absolutely adored them. They made me better. They were the ones who made me better, and I felt safe when I heard their voices. So the love that we have, it's not about being in love, it's about loving what we do, loving the women we care for, and loving each other. And I really do believe that that's the way forward. And being kind is not, being kind to each other doesn't take longer. I remember the shift leaders when I was a busy midwife on the labour ward, the ones who obviously have to have the right skills and be competent, but the ones that made the difference were the ones that touched me on the arm and said, "Do you want a cup of tea, Sheena?" Even when it was mad. They'd bring one to the room for me. The ones who really cared. So be kind. Look after each other. Really, really look at, those people that you're working with and the women that you're caring for. Really connect with them and build relationships, because that makes the difference. This is an example of some midwives in a hospital in England who actually were feeling really burnt out on the postnatal ward. They were absolutely beside themselves. They didn't know what to do. One of them one day thought of this idea of having something called 10 at 10. Have you heard about it? So what she did is she got everybody together at 10 o'clock. Everyone had to come in this room, and she brought cakes, and then everyone else started bringing cakes. And every day they had this meeting, 10 at 10, and then they started doing 10 at 2. So they had twice a day, they all got together. And she said it completely changed the culture because they started to look after each other. They started to understand each other. So this is a really busy postnatal ward. She's written about it actually, and we've just published it on All for Maternity blog. One of the other things that I'm really passionate about is giving authentic, positive feedback to our colleagues. And this is not about saying, oh, you're fantastic, I love you. This is about saying, do you know the way you cared for that woman, the way I saw you, turned the lights down, the way you connected with her, and the way you had that beautiful interaction really made a difference. And I know what I've done in my career is seen that work so beautifully, and someone taught me how to do it. Then I started to do it, and I remember doing it to an obstetrician who'd done this fantastic consultation with a woman who was distressed. And this obstetrician she's actually Dutch, and she's quite sort of clipped in her manner, but she was beautiful in this interaction. And I went to tell her, like backstage, back in the antenatal clinic, I went to tell her. And I said to her, do you know, Rinika, the way you did that was just so beautiful. And I wished I'd have filmed it, because I'd love to show other doctors and midwives how you did it. It was brilliant. And she said to me, Sheena, you're so over the top. You're so over the top. And she went really red, all the neck went red. And then she marched off, like she really didn't like it. She didn't like that I told her how good she was. But what happened then, 2 days later, it was about 2 weeks later, sorry, I got a frantic knock on my door, and it was another obstetrician who came running in, and she said, Sheena, you'll never guess what's happened. You'll never guess what's happened. This was a different one. She said, I've just been to a home visit with Rinika, because it was going to be difficult, because it's a complaint. And when I came out, Rinika said to me, do you know, the way you did that was really good. And she said, the way you connect, and she said, I have never had any positive feedback from Rinika in my whole career. I'm going to have to ring my husband. And she said, she actually emailed me and said, it's made my career. Do you know, the fact? So what I'm saying is, if we start to appreciate each other, so it's not going to make staffing levels better. It's not going to make the situation change in terms of numbers, but what it will do is start to shift the culture, and you'll start to look after each other and be kind to each other instead of going down a big black hole, right? So it's really important. I've got loads more stories about that. Resilience is a nasty word sometimes, isn't it? And we have to be careful when we talk about resilience, because sometimes it's used as, oh, well, if you're not coping, you're not resilient enough. And that's not what I'm going to talk about here. If you ever get a chance to read Billy Hunter's work on resilience, what she explains is that absolutely it has to be coming from you. So you have to be the one who thinks whether you're resilient or not. But there's ways you can develop resilience. There's ways you can develop a coping mechanism. And it's doing it in a really holistic way. And it doesn't always work, but you can have a go at it. And I think read Billy Hunter's work. It is in The Roar Behind the Silence. It's a chapter in there. I love this. This was a tweet I saw the other day, and sometimes, I do this. I think I'm going to change the whole world. That's it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it better for everybody, and I can't. I actually physically can't. And you as midwives and doulas and whatever role you've got in maternity care, just think about that one person in front of you at that moment in time. That's what those nurses did to me. And it's a touch or a deed or whatever it is. And this is a doctor that's just tweeted it the other day. So connecting with your compassionate self, because when we get busy and stressed, that seems to go out the window. So we think, oh well, what is this term compassion? But actually we can learn to be compassionate. We can't teach it, but we can learn it, and we can learn it by watching others. So find your role models. Find the people who you see are building relationships up with women and families, and then copy what they do and see how it works, because actually it comes back to you. How am I doing for time? Am I okay? This is Robin Youngson. He is an anaesthetist that lives in New Zealand, and he's actually now developed this website, which I'll show you in a moment. And I've met Robin, and he's written 2 chapters for Raw. And he used to be a really grouchy anaesthetist, and he hated it when he did really long shifts, and he'd get home, and the midwives would ring him and tell him, "Oh, such a body needs an epidural." And he said, "I've done 14 hours. I was exhausted. Why did you not tell me before I left? Why was it waited? Why did they wait?" And so he used to get really bad-tempered and come in on a shift and be grouchy with everybody. And then his daughter had a major car crash, and he watched how she was cared for in this hospital. She couldn't move. She was paralysed. She just had to look at the ceiling all day. And he saw the difference in the compassion that different healthcare professionals delivered to his daughter, and he saw the difference that some of them made. So when he went back to work, what he decided one night, that he was going to be different. And he said the first time he did it, he went in a room and he said hello to everyone. Hello, hi. And he said they went, what's going on here? And I've got 5 minutes yet. So he said they thought he was bizarre. And he said it took a few weeks for them to trust him because they thought he was having a funny turn. So, and he said what happened was that I started to feel better. He said, even though it was busy, I started to feel more able to cope. They started to feel better. And then we built this brilliant relationship up, and things did get better. And so now he has a website. Please go on it and watch his YouTube clips, because he gives the science behind the importance of compassionate care and how it nurtures you, it nurtures your soul, and it does help you to be able to care better. So that we can do this, so that we can give this kind of particular beautiful care. And use your voice. You've got a strong voice. Who are student midwives in the room? Woohoo! Right, you're going to be the ones who do change the world. You are the future, and we absolutely love you, and I'm really here for you to support you to do that. Aspiring student midwives, we hope that you get into doing that too. And midwives in the room. Brilliant, wonderful, my lovely colleagues. And anyone else? You, Alison! Yay! Okay, well, Alison's one of my best friends, so that's all right. So use your voice, because Alison uses her voice, and Helen Shallow, who you're going to hear in a moment, is a perfect example of a midwife who uses her voice. Watch what she does. We have to be political. We have to speak up when things aren't right. We can't just go about being nice to everybody, because that is really important, but we have to do the other things as well. So we have to have courage. And I tell you, most of my career I felt like this. And I've been, and I still do. I'm doing a talk on Saturday at the ARM conference about being intimidated on social media because I have a voice, because I speak out for what I believe is right. Sometimes I get bullied on social media. And that's how we have to feel when we're courageous and speaking out. Use social media. Use social media positively. I haven't got time to go into that, but it can help you to build your tribe and to get courage and to get others to help you to do things. I feel very comforted when I have people who are kind of supporting me on social media. And my daughter and I have a website called All for Maternity, and we've got a huge amount of blogs on there, and we've got a special zone called the Nurture Zone, because we are really passionate about supporting others. And this is some of the stuff that we have on there.